Hello, everybody. I'm just going to be talking to you today about the Kutubullah, which is the collection of holy books through Islam. As always, I have got with me my textbook in order to quickly refer back to anything should I forget what I'm talking about, which hopefully I will not. Okay, so the Kutubullah are the collection of holy books that the Muslims follow. Some of them are more important than others, and we're going to talk through that today. So obviously the opening slide, what is your favourite book? What makes a book special to you is the really important thing. And obviously in this instance, the holy books are incredibly important and special to religious people. Okay, won't worry about that bit. So the learning milestones today are that you need to identify and describe the nature, history and significance and purpose of the holy books. So that's basically, I'm going to be talking through each holy book and why they're important. Most of you will need to be able to explain the nature of them using PE structure at some point and using also sources of wisdom, which is essential. And then finally, to assess the importance and different views that Muslims have on them. Okay, so you have a clip that you can watch. I would suggest that you have a little look through it. And our main question here is the exam question, which is state 3 Muslim attitudes towards the holy book. So what 3 things do they think about holy books? And the information is in front of us. So Muslims believe that over the centuries, prophets have received messages from Allah. Many of them were recorded in ancient scriptures known as the Kutubullah, or the books of Allah. Many have survived but continue to be a source of guidance for billions of people today. They begin all the way from the very start of the scrolls with Abraham and Moses, and then all the way through to the final revelation, which is the Quran. Holy books revealed to humanity prior to the Quran are believed by Muslims to be earlier forms of revelations. So in most of these cases, either an angel has communicated with them, or in some instances, God himself has. But Muslims would generally believe that it is only the angels that share the revelation. And therefore, they are not considered to be the final authority, because what's happened over the centuries is translation issues have occurred, and they're not the final message until we have the Quran, which is given to the Prophet Muhammad on his soul. So what are the holy books and why are they important? So I'm going to talk through each of the holy books. As always, forgive me for my terrible Arabic. I will try and do them as carefully as possible. So the first one is the Sahifa, and this is known as scrolls. And these are scrolls of Abraham or Ibrahim in Arabic. They are of his story. They explain the agreement, which is called the covenant, so the promises between Ibrahim and the promised people. Okay. These are part of the early religious scriptures of Islam. They're about as far back as they believe they go. Okay, these are the first kind of moments that things are being revealed. It is believed that they are now lost, but contained Allah's revelations to the Prophet Ibrahim, which were written down by him and his followers. Now, scrolls in another time in Christianity are something slightly different, and in Judaism they are slightly different. So for Muslims, they believe that what's available isn't quite the true story. Okay, so what was written in the scriptures of Moses and Abraham, that no soul shall bear the burden of another. So basically, what has gone on in those, the story that was given to them, nobody else is going to have that message. Only they were given it. Okay, next one is the Taurat. Okay, also known as the Torah in Hebrew, which is the first part of the Christian Bible. So that is the Old Testament. It is a holy book that was revealed directly by God to the prophet Musa or Moses. It contains the 10 Commandments, which are the key beliefs, and also contains lots of interesting teachings and stories and laws, which is really important. 10 Commandments are just part of a wider selection of laws. There are 613 in total, but 10 are the most important ones. Muslims believe that the Torah contains many good teachings and laws, but only meant for Jews for a limited time. They were only for the time that they were living in. They don't need to be applied on a wider scale now. It includes a prophecy about the Prophet Muhammad. Now, for Muslims, they believe that the prophecy is about the Prophet Muhammad. For Christians, they believe that the prophecy is about Jesus. So there's a real distinction there. They are told that somebody will come and save them, okay, and save them from all of what's happening around them. And for Muslims, they believe that person is Muhammad. Okay, we revealed the Torah with guidance and light. So the point here is that it was revealed in order to be a guide for everybody. It's not meant to be sort of like a law that people must absolutely follow in order to make them miserable. It's there to guide them towards the light, which obviously, hopefully, would be paradise or heaven. Okay, what are the holy books and why they're important? The Zabur, and this is the Psalms, and the Psalms are all about the story of David and Goliath, and it is about David when he becomes king, so King David, and they are before Jesus, 900 years before Jesus is born. And they are mentioned in the Quran, and they are also in the Christian Bible as well. They are also in the Old Testament, and they are a selection of poems, 150 of them, and they're all meant to be inspired by God in one way or another. They are very beautiful to read in cases, and they often are either sung or they are read aloud within a worship setting. We sent revelation to you, Muhammad, as we did to Noah after him, and David we gave the book of Psalms. The point here is that the angels, they had given all of these revelations over time, and this is what makes them prophets as well, these key people. And Injil, okay, so this is the Arabic term for gospel. The gospel is the 4 sections of the Bible which are to do with the story of Jesus: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They all reveal the same thing. They tell the story from the very beginning of Jesus' life to the end, and they all roughly contain the same story. There are some differences throughout, and as a collection, they are known as Injil. It is a book believed to have been given by God to the prophet Jesus. They do not believe that Jesus is part of God. They believe that he is just a man like anybody else. So they do not believe that he died on the cross. They do not believe that he was resurrected. They do not believe that he is part of they do not believe that he is part of God, but they do believe that he was born of a woman miraculously, so as a miracle. Muslims believe that the meaning of this book has been altered by people over time, like all holy books prior to the Quran. Injil is not to be confused with the New Testament, for it is not about Jesus' life, but contains revelations about morals, love, and forgiveness. Muslims also believe that Injil reveals the coming of the Prophet Muhammad. So really what that's all about, okay, is that it's to do with the Gospels, but it doesn't necessarily talk about in the same way Jesus' life. It tells you about the teachings that Jesus revealed over the time that he was communicating with people. Islam teaches that Isa was not the son of God, as it is obviously taught in Christianity. Okay, we know why. That is because of Taurat. Okay. The Quran, the most important of all the holy books, it is treated with nothing but respect. It is always the highest object in the room. It is covered and wrapped in silk when it is not being used. You must wash or complete wudu before you touch any of the Quran, and it's very important that it never touches the floor. As you can see here, it is on a special stand. Okay, so according to Islamic belief, the meaning of the books revealed by Allah prior to the Quran became unclear and unreliable. So the books before, they had been changed over time, as we know. The Bible and the Torah have been translated so many times, and they have been added to and changed throughout that time. Therefore, only the Quran is accepted as the true word of Allah. This is because all of the words were put onto the soul of Prophet Muhammad, and then he spent 23 years revealing that. Okay, so that's important because he says the direct words of Allah. He does not start telling about his own life. It's got nothing really to do with that. He's only mentioned, I think, 4 times in the Quran. So it's all to do with what Allah says. It is the final revelation and is universal. That means it applies to absolutely everybody. This means that it is a message for all people at all times and in all places. So unlike the Taurat, which is meant to have just been for the Jews for that select amount of time with those select rules, this is a book which is everlasting. There will need to be no other because it always is relevant. The Quran confirms the revealed books that came before it, but takes priority over all of them. Where any of the other scriptures appear to be contradictory to the Quran, The Quran is always correct. So if there's anything that is unsure, it doesn't matter. It is the Quran that is the final answer. It has the final say. The Quran sets out how people should live and other incorrect scriptures and the teachings that exist to test people's faith. So it really covers a basis of all of people's lives. So it guides you in many situations throughout your lifetime, from the very beginning until the end and in the afterlife. The Quran is regarded as the final revelation by Allah to the Prophet Muhammad. It was revealed to him in Arabic, and the Quran is therefore different from any other holy book because it contains the final words. So it is exactly as it was said, it was written down. It obviously did take a long time, but it is perfect in everybody's eyes. The Prophet Muhammad did not write it down himself. He spoke the words, and somebody and his a group of people, they wrote it down. The Quran is nothing less than a revelation that is sent to him, and him being Muhammad. So in that situation, it is nothing less than, it is an exact revelation, an exact replica of what Allah wanted. Okay. State 3 Muslim attitudes towards holy books. So I need 3 very, very clear sentences. They must be full sentences. Do not lay them out on separate lines, because I don't want anybody to look like they're doing bullet points. Otherwise, you will achieve 0. Explain 2 Muslim attitudes towards the Taurat. So say 2 things that they believe about the Taurat, and you should refer to a source of wisdom. You must give the source of wisdom. So that's to do with the fact that it was given to Musa in light, for light and guidance, or guidance and light. Okay. Now, this is a really important bit, AO2. This is a thing that everybody struggles with, so I don't want anyone to worry. We're going to have a little look at this together. Okay, so we need to critically deconstruct each book. This is what it says in the mark scheme for the D question. This is where we're going to use it for the 12 mark, 15 mark answer. Okay, we must use AO1 to back up our points, otherwise our points don't mean anything when we say them. So if you were given the question that said, Quran is the only holy book that's needed, you would have to say, these are the reasons why the Quran is only needed. This could be one view. And then you have to say, well, that might not be a very good view because of all these reasons. Okay. And then you would have to pose another viewpoint, which is probably something to do with the opposite. So it could be that the Torah is actually much more useful because it contains rules, laws, guidance. Or it might be the Injil because it contains moral guidance on how people should live, how people should be kind to one another, and about the nature of Allah, and the way that he communicates with his creation. The Quran is meant for all time, so of course that would be a fantastic book to have. It's meant for absolutely everybody. What is a weakness? Well, the weakness could be that the Prophet Muhammad didn't write it himself. He only recited the book to other people. Other people could have tampered with the message. How can we trust that it's the final revelation? May there not be more in the future? And what would it mean if there was? You could say that the reason that the Torah is not so good, its weakness could be that it needed more information. It needed other books to come after it. If it was the perfect book, there would be no need for a further revelation. So you are just considering the different views. So what went well, what is good about that view, and what is not so good about that view. We should see both in your answers, and then you should propose another view, and then we should see both of a what went well and an even better if. I think we have got on here. Okay, so we have on here Miss Marable's plan of how you can do your answer. So you make a judgment, you say, what would somebody say about this? It's not what you would say, it's about what somebody else is going to say. Okay, and then you have to say, well, I think about this view and I think these 2 things about it roughly. You must give keywords, you must give quotes, you must use the Arabic terms. Please don't put in this just, holy book. If you're going to say holy book, say Kutubullah. And then you do exactly the same for another judgment. The conclusion is very important. You don't just put, in the end, I believe. I need you to really think about what the impact of each view is. So as an example, if I was to say that the Quran is the most important of the Kutubullah, that's my judgment. Okay, I'm going to say the Quran is the most important. Who thinks that? All Muslims think that. So Muslims believe that the Quran is the most important holy book. okay, because it is the final revelation. It's the last one that's ever needed. It's meant for all people. It's universal, okay. And then I give a lovely quote to support that. I'm then going to say, however, some people may disagree with this because they think that it could not be the final revelation, or it could be that that Prophet Muhammad didn't write it down himself, and it would have been more important if he had actually written it rather than recite the words to somebody else. And I might say, what's really good about that view is what's really good is that it's a universal book. It applies to absolutely everybody. It's not just for the people that it was revealed to in Mecca at that time. And that's really important because it works for everyone. And that's what makes it an absolutely amazing book. What's the impact of those two pieces of appraisal? Well, the impact is that I might not be able to say that it's the direct word of Allah because other people have actually been responsible for writing it down. But I can also say that that doesn't necessarily always matter because the judgments and the guidance and everything that's offered inside the Quran is still really useful to everybody today, and anybody can use it. And that should go into my conclusion. That's my judgment, my final piece. What do I think is the impact? And that's the final piece of information. Miss Marable's also put on here another way if you prefer to have a view of the exam structure like this. I've also got the Big D question planners that my classes know how to use. If you would like to know how to use that and you are unsure, of course, you can always just drop me an email. They are on the Google Classroom under the resources tab in classwork. So please have a little look at those. They should hopefully be really useful for you. Overall, I think it's really important that you just understand that whilst the holy books are as a collection really important to Muslims as a whole, the key thing is that the Quran is the final revelation. There is nothing that is better than that. Lovely. I think that's everything for today. Make sure you give the exam questions a go and have a click on the links as well. You should always have a go at some of the links. See you later, guys.